I'm Jeff Hartman, the Ascend Math representative for Clark County Schools. I'm sorry if we were unable to meet in person at the Clark County Vendor Fair, but I'm glad you're watching. Let me spend the next few minutes sharing a strategy your fellow educators are using to help their struggling students fill math gaps quickly and get back on level. Clark County educators at Burkholder Middle School were looking for a way to help students who were not successful in the general education classroom and not proficient in math. They elected to use Ascend Math with these students to see if it can move them along. The results? 71% of students at Burkholder using Ascend Math gained 1 grade level or more, and 24% gained 2 grade levels or more. These results are similar to those we see across the country from students using Ascend Math to close existing skill gaps. In a study of Clark County junior high students using Ascend Math, students who were 2 or more grade levels below their current grade in math made tremendous progress in just 7 months. And last year, Saville Middle School in Las Vegas was honored as an Ascend Math Gold Medal school. They use Ascend with special education and math intervention students. 20% of those students showed 3 or more years of growth. Over 75% of them graduated from the intervention program after 1 school year or less of support. How are these schools able to accomplish these kinds of results? First, let's look at the situation. Like students at most schools, many of your Clark County students have math skill gaps at least 1 full grade level below their current grade. In fact, the average class identified for intervention has skill gaps 2, 3, 4, or even more grade levels below their actual grade. Even within a particular grade level, each of these students is unique and will have an individual set of skill gaps. Using Ascend Math, these Clark County students were able to fill in their skill gaps, starting with the earliest skill gap and working through a sequence study plan, working only on what they had demonstrated that they didn't know. Let me show you. First, every student in Ascend takes what is called the level recommendation test. This adaptive assessment adjusts to each individual student. The test increases or decreases in difficulty based on the student's responses. Each test is unique, just as the student is unique. The result is educators know where each student should begin instruction. This slide represents the level recommendation test results of students at a school in Arizona called Valley High School in Sanders, Arizona. You can see the spread of these high school students, and you can see that they are clustered in grades 2, 3, and 4. These are the same students just 3 months later after having used Ascend Math. The only way that students that are this far behind can move up this quickly is by focusing on their skill gaps or on what it is that they don't know. That takes a truly individualized study plan. When a student first logs into Ascend, there are no lessons in his study plan. The student takes a short pre-assessment built around like objectives, allowing him to show what he does know. His lesson plan fills with the objectives that he does not know. The student then begins the first lesson. Completing the interactive instruction and activities, the student takes a post-assessment. Passing the assessment, the student moves on to the next lesson in his plan. When the lessons are completed, the student again takes a brief pre-assessment, building his lesson plan to the next stage. Let's take a closer look at the award-winning instruction and assessment found in the Ascend Math student experience. This is the student experience section of our webpage, ascendmath.com. You can visit this page at any time to take a preview of Ascend Math all the way from the early elementary level up to Algebra 1. We are a K through 12 program. I'm going to go into this 6th grade lesson, multiplication and division applications of fractions. This is the student dashboard. Every student is represented by an avatar, a climber, which they can customize from a number of different options. And that climber is climbing a mountain. That mountain represents the unit that that student is currently working on. Now, this student, David Fox, has taken the pre-assessment for this unit, and it has identified 3 skill gaps that David has in this unit. So you notice there are 3 intervals here, and notice the little climbing spikes in the mountain. that David has to complete before he can capture the flag for this unit and add it to the flags that he has already captured representing the units that he's already completed in this grade level. He can also take a look and see how far he's got to go before he finishes the entire grade level. And once a student does complete an entire grade level in Ascend Math, they are rewarded with a mountain badge. Here, their mountain badges are named after famous mountains. You can even click on one, get a little picture of the mountain and a fact about it. What you do not see is what the numeric grade level is that the student was working on. Some students might be a little embarrassed by working behind grade level, so we just show them that they're making progress, but we try to keep anything that could be negative out of the student experience. For David Fox to begin his next lesson, his next identified skill gap, the only thing that he needs to do is press the Start Lesson button. That will take him into our lesson format. Our lessons begin with a study guide that is followed by an instructional video, a conceptual explore phase, a practice section where they can work on word problems, a review page, and then finally a post-assessment, which is currently locked because they haven't been through the first 5 steps. To begin with, the study guide is a PDF document that we recommend that you print out so that students will have it in front of them while they're watching the instructional video. Even though Ascend is a computer program, we want students showing you their work. This first question about hamburgers will be the first question that the instructor covers during the video portion of the lesson. Elsewhere on the study guide are practice problems for them to work on later in their own time. Study guides are available in Spanish as well, if that is useful to you. Now we move on to the instructional video.
During this objective, we'll be looking at applications dealing with multiplication and division of fractions. How many 1/4 pound hamburgers can be made from 5 pounds of meat? Once again, how many 1/4 pound hamburgers can be made from 5 pounds of meat?
So we have an on-screen instructor speaking directly to the student. She will read the question out loud. Many times struggling math students are also struggling with reading. And then we will use on-screen graphics and other resources to help students conceptually frame the problem. The instructor will then turn to the whiteboard behind her and work the problem as the students are following along on their study guides, copying the student's instruction onto their study guides. These videos are interactive. You may have noticed the colored tiles that popped up with information earlier while we were watching. Those tiles are occasionally interactive. They'll stop and pause the video and ask the student to do a simple calculation related to the lesson content. Sometimes they'll just make a joke. Other times they will remind the students that this is an important point, that they should pay attention or take notes. We just want to make sure that the students are tuned in and watching the instructional video. These videos are also closed captioned in English and in Spanish for those students whose first language may not be English. You can use the scrubber bar here to move back and forth and watch and rewatch portions of the lesson if you'd like to reteach, if you're a student watching the lesson and you'd like to watch a portion of it again. Once the students have watched the video and followed along on their study guides, they move on to the explore phase. In the explore phase, whenever possible, we are trying to emphasize the concepts behind the math. Here we're multiplying fractions, and you can teach students to come up with the right answer of 1/3 times 1/2, 1/6, but many students won't understand why that answer is correct. So we've created this virtual manipulative, this drag and drop, where you can drag over the square representing 1/3, drag over the square representing 1/2, and there you see a visual representation of why the correct answer is 1/6. So it's a way for students to solve a problem differently and gain a better understanding of what is actually happening when fractions are being multiplied. Once they have finished with the explore exercises, they move on to the practice phase. Here we have word problems. I'm going to get this one wrong on purpose and check my answer. Well, Ascend is telling me that's incorrect. As a student, I have a couple of different options here. I can choose to have Ascend Math show me the answer. Since this is not an assessment, it's just a teaching tool, we will allow the students to take a glimpse at the correct answer and work their way backwards to find their mistake. Or, as a student, I can launch a solution video that is specific to this problem.
A recipe for biscuits calls for 2/3 of a cup of flour.
So the student has several resources that they have access to before they have to raise their hand and ask for help. And the students can at any time go and revisit the explore phase or revisit the video phase if they want to reteach. These practice problems are also available for read aloud in Spanish for your Spanish-speaking students. Once they have finished with the practice questions, they move on to the review phase. The review phase is a PDF document This represents essentially the notes that they still don't have from 3 years ago when this was covered the first time. It's very difficult for classroom teachers to always have the correct supplemental handout ready for every skill gap at every level. So we provide it for you. In this case, it's a review of keywords and key phrases and some example problems and solutions so the student can study this sheet and feel prepared to take the post-assessment. Once they have studied the review sheet, they are ready for the post-assessment. Our post-assessments have 5 questions. The default passing rate is 80%. So they'll need to get 4 of the 5 right to be considered to have mastered this objective. Once they master this objective, they move immediately on to their next identified skill gap. If they do not master this objective, they repeat this lesson again and take a different post-assessment with different questions until such time as the teacher intervenes or they are able to pass on their own. Students track their own progress on this dashboard, which is accessed from their home screen. At a glance, Curtis, the student, sees his current objective and how many units he has left to complete at this level. Notice that the time on task is monitored. Though the test itself is not timed, the time the student spends in the activities and taking the test is tracked. With students and teachers looking at the same information, communicating and goal setting are greatly improved. Here is a representative sample of pre-assessment results. Note the students at different levels all working on different skill gaps. This is important. Each student's study plan is automatically assigned, something the Clark County educators running the program have really appreciated. Purple on this graph means that they passed the pre-assessment for that objective. Blue means that they did not pass, and that objective will be included in their individual sequence study plan. So students begin instruction at the appropriate level and at their lowest skill gap. When students are placed appropriately, they will start to see success immediately. So what kind of commitment does it take to get good results from Ascend Math? We recommend that students work at least 1.5 to 2 hours each week in Ascend Math. Teachers have found several very effective ways to split up that time. So you can have half an hour every day, an hour twice a week, whatever gets you to that 90 to 120 minute stage. That's how much time Ascend Math takes for students, but what about instructors? What about teachers? As I pointed out previously, study plans are automatically assigned, so the teacher does not have to spend time making manual assignments in Ascend Math. In addition, Ascend is a data-rich program that only requires a few minutes of your time a few times a week to successfully monitor your student progress. Ascend Math is designed to give you more time for your students, and the program is designed so that you don't have to spend a lot of time in the program pulling reports. Speaking of reports, how will you monitor student progress? The class dashboard provides an at-a-glance look at the classroom as a whole and the progress they have made in the past week and since the beginning of the school year. Notice in this class, students are working on different skill gaps at 6 different levels. You can also see the progress in completing levels. Everything that you need to see to be able to monitor the progress of the students in your classroom is here. If you would like more information on Ascend Math, please don't hesitate to contact me or visit our website, ascendmath.com. We have special pricing exclusive to Clark County available, and we do offer convenient and affordable licensing options to get your students started on the path back to grade level. Thank you for your time and your interest in Ascend Math. My contact information is displayed on the screen. I hope to hear from you soon. Thanks again, and have a great day, everybody.